Picture the most inhospitable place on the planet, a wasteland where the ground bakes at over 150 degrees Fahrenheit, where rain hasn't fallen in months, where the air itself feels like the inside of an oven, and the landscape stretches to the horizon in every direction without a single tree, a single shadow, a single sign of anything alive. Now picture a fish, not a fossil, not a memory, a living, breathing, swimming fish, right here, in the heart of it all. That's not a riddle. That's not science fiction. That's real. And today, we're going to meet two of the most extraordinary animals on Earth. Creatures that rewrote everything we thought we knew about the limits of life itself. This is Death Valley, California, the hottest, driest place in North America. Temperatures here have reached 134 degrees Fahrenheit. The average annual rainfall is less than 2 inches. For most of the year, the valley floor is an ocean of baked salt and silence. But buried beneath a rocky hillside on the eastern edge of this valley, hidden from the sun, invisible from the road, there is a hole in the ground. And at the bottom of that hole, there is water. Not just any water, a subterranean cavern filled with a thermal pool that has existed undisturbed and isolated for over 500,000 years. The water sits at a permanent 93 degrees Fahrenheit. There's almost no oxygen, almost no food, almost no light. And in this single, solitary pool, no bigger than a large living room, lives the entire population of one of the rarest animals on Earth. The Devil's Hole pupfish. Every single individual of this species, in one pool, in one cave, in one desert. Let that sink in. The Devil's Hole itself descends further than any diver has ever safely reached. The ledge where the pupfish actually live is a narrow, sunlit shelf just below the surface. A stage barely larger than a dining room table. That's it. That's their entire world. Scientists first documented the pupfish here in the 1930s. And what they found immediately raised a question that still doesn't have a complete answer. How did these fish get here in the first place? The best theory traces back to the end of the last ice age, roughly 10,000 to 20,000 years ago, when the desert Southwest looked nothing like it does today. Ancient lakes and rivers connected these regions, and fish populations moved freely between them. Then the climate shifted, the water receded, the rivers dried up, and in almost every case, the fish that lived in them vanished with them. But not these ones. These fish found the underground passage. They dropped into the dark, thermal world of Devil's Hole, and they stayed. And over hundreds of thousands of years, completely cut off from every other body of water on the planet, they evolved into something entirely their own. The Devil's Hole pupfish is barely an inch long. Its entire diet depends on a thin film of algae that grows on the sunlit shelf near the surface. But the amount of light reaching that shelf shifts with the seasons. More in summer, less in winter, which means the food supply rises and falls on a slow annual rhythm. And the population follows that rhythm almost exactly. At its lowest points, scientists have counted fewer than 40 individuals alive. The entire species. Fewer than 40 fish. There are more people working in the average coffee shop than there are Devil's Hole pupfish in existence at any given moment. And yet, they survive every year, every cycle. They have outlasted droughts, earthquakes, and every catastrophe this desert has produced for 500,000 years. There's something almost defiant about it. Something that makes you stop and ask, what exactly is the minimum requirement for a species to endure? For the Devil's Hole pupfish, apparently, the answer is not much. Just a shelf of rock, a shaft of light, and time. The Devil's Hole pupfish is a story about isolation, About one species, one place, one impossible bet that paid off across geological time. But on the other side of the world, in a very different kind of desert, a very different kind of fish took a completely different approach to the same problem. This one didn't find shelter. It built its own solutions from scratch. The Australian outback covers more than 1.5 million square miles of semi-arid and arid terrain. It's a landscape of brutal extremes. Scorching summer heat, freezing winter nights, and a water cycle so unpredictable that entire river systems can vanish and reappear from one season to the next. This is not a place that welcomes fish, but no one told that to the Desert Goby. The Desert Goby looks at first glance like a perfectly ordinary little fish. Stocky, sand-colored, unremarkable. It's the kind of creature you could walk past 100 times without a second look. That would be a mistake. Because what this fish does, quietly, without any fanfare at all, is nothing short of extraordinary. The pools where desert gobies live are not stable. They are wild, volatile, and unpredictable. Pools that can swing from cool and clear after winter rains to scalding, salt-thick, oxygen-starved traps by the height of summer. Water temperature can shift by more than 50 degrees Fahrenheit across a single year. Salinity can spike to several times the concentration of seawater, and dissolved oxygen, the resource fish pull from water through their gills, can drop so low during hot, stagnant periods that most aquatic life simply suffocates. The desert goby does not suffocate. When oxygen levels in the water collapse, and in these pools, they can drop to near zero, the desert goby surfaces. It positions itself beneath a pocket of trapped air at the water's edge and essentially breathes from that bubble, pulling just enough oxygen to stay alive while the conditions around it slowly stabilize. Think about what that means. A fish in a desert pool using a personal air supply to survive conditions that would kill almost anything else in the water. This is not panic. This is adaptation. So precise, so refined, it looks almost like intelligence. And the desert goby's approach to reproduction is no less impressive. Females are selective. They choose the strongest males who compete fiercely for territory and nesting sites. Once eggs are laid in a sheltered crevice, the male stands guard without leaving. He fans the eggs constantly to keep them oxygenated. He drives off threats. He tends the nest with total commitment. In an environment where conditions can flip from survivable to lethal within days, every behavior, every instinct, every biological trick this fish has, it was carved out by the pressure of this exact landscape over millions of years. Two fish, two deserts, two completely different answers to the same impossible question. One retreated, found a hidden sanctuary, and adapted so completely to it that the entire species now fits inside a single underground room. The other stayed exposed, faced every brutal shift the desert could produce, and evolved the tools to handle all of them. And both are still here. Which raises a question worth sitting with long after this video ends. When the conditions around you become impossible, when the environment turns hostile and the odds stack against everything you're trying to sustain, what do you do? Do you find the one safe place and hold on with everything you have? Or do you develop the ability to endure anything? The desert has no opinion. It simply applies pressure. The fish already answered.